Well, look who it is. A fresh new batch of squid hatchlings ready to test the waters and dip their toes into some race gas before committing to the two-wheeled lifestyle. Well, you're in luck because that's my bread and butter, baby. We've helped probably hundreds of thousands of riders all around the world get on two wheels over the years, and I'm determined to ensure you, yes, you, are next. We'll keep this intro short and sweet today as we've got a lot of ground to cover, so without further ado, let's get into today's episode of Nutritious Squid Food Hayabusa Dude. I am your father, Yami Noob. Today's video is proudly sponsored by our friends over at Voom Insurance. I will tell you more about them in just a little bit, but now let's get into it. 10 things you must do before you ride a motorcycle. The first thing you gotta do before riding a motorcycle is surprisingly more overlooked than you may think, and it's to be able to confidently ride a bicycle. While it isn't absolutely imperative, I'm sure there are plenty of Harley guys out there who, prior to getting onto a motorcycle, were more used to riding a lazy boy armchair than a bicycle. It is going to make your life a whole lot easier if you're already used to riding on two wheels. Riding a bicycle helps develop balance, coordination, and a sense of control. These skills are fundamental to both riding a bicycle and operating a motorcycle. By mastering balance on a bicycle, you develop the foundation necessary to handle a motorcycle. Riding a bicycle gives you basic understandings of how two-wheeled vehicles behave. You become accustomed to leaning into turns, making steering adjustments, and maintaining stability at different speeds. This knowledge transfers to riding a motorcycle, making it easier to adapt the dynamics and handling characteristics of a motorcycle. Just being able to have good balance and maneuverability in general will make you immediately more comfortable. Unlike driving a car under normal circumstances, riding a motorcycle requires a degree of athleticism to be able to tame the beast between your knees, especially if you start on a Turbo Hayabusa, and even then just moving it around your garage is a bit of an exercise. So do yourself a favor and dust off the cobwebs of your Huffy before you show up to your MSF class. As a side note, I am an avid cyclist. I do a lot of road cycling myself. I'm not too big on mountain bikes, but a lot of people love mountain biking as a corollary activity to motorcycling as well. You'll find that as you ride motorcycles, you tend to come back to bicycles because being on two wheels is just a whole lot of fun in general. Another thing that will give you a massive head start when learning how to ride a motorcycle is having done research beforehand. Life is all about prep work, folks. Come prepared, you succeed. There is so much more insightful motorcycle content on the internet, this channel, but really it is easier than ever before to find out tons of information online. So before you show up to the MSF, you can have an understanding of basic motorcycle skills, riding styles, or even something as simple as having an introductory understanding of motorcycle culture. The sooner you start absorbing that knowledge, the easier your entry into riding will be. Sure, there's really no way to truly learn how to ride other than in the saddle of a motorcycle, but having a foundation of introductory knowledge will give you a massive leg up in the beginning. Some good information to research prior to riding would be which type of bike you'd like to ride, essential motorcycle riding gear, and legal requirements in your area for licensure and insurance. Hey, that actually brings us to our next entry on our list. Before you ride your first motorcycle, you're going to need motorcycle insurance. Well, let me rephrase that. Before you buy your first motorcycle, you're going to need motorcycle insurance. And if you're a new rider, you're going to have quite a few upfront costs to contend with, like getting your first bike and all of your essential gear, and that's why we're so happy to be working with Voom Insurance. Voom is the first and only pay-per-mile insurance provider for motorcyclists. If you're new to two wheels, you might not be crushing thousands of miles in a season just yet, and instead just puttering around your town here and there while you get your bearings. In this instance, Voom is a great option to ensure you only pay for what you need. But Voom isn't just great for beginner riders, it's great for seasonal riders and multiple bike owners as well. Voom is super easy to use and requires no hardware. All you have to do is upload a photo of your odometer to keep track of your mileage. Voom is available in Texas, Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, Indiana, Alabama, Ohio, and Tennessee. Voom is committed to saving riders money, so click the link down below and get your free quote and see if Voom is the right insurance provider for you. One of the earliest things you have to do before you ride a motorcycle is get kitted out in the proper gear. Despite what your Uncle Cletus says, the one with a dead eye and 9 fingers, gear is important. It might seem daunting to pony up a couple $100 for gear when you don't even have a bike yet, but trust me, you will not regret it. And to even take the MSF course, you need close to a full set of gear anyway. A full set of motorcycle riding gear includes a DOT or ECE rated helmet, motorcycle gloves, motorcycle jacket, and motorcycle boots. I emphasize motorcycle because you want motorcycle specific boots, jackets, and gloves. Don't just get a pair of Dickies and some desert boots or something like that. Once you level up to a frequent rider, you'll likely benefit from a nice pair of riding pants as well. Motorcycle-specific gear is, of course, designed to protect you in the event of a crash, but it also provides support and functionality specific for motorcycle riding, meaning the leather jacket from Buckle that your mom got you for your bar mitzvah 8 years ago is not going to cut it. Motorcycle gear is strong, abrasion resistant, and often includes armor for impact. Armor for Impact sounds like the emo band from your hometown that used to play shows at the American Legion Hall. Weird. There is a motorcycle gear for all different types of riding styles, so you can still be safe without looking like a neon astronaut or a masochist in a gimp suit. Something I don't often see discussed enough is the need to disclose your choice to ride a motorcycle to your family or loved ones. This is something that can be really awkward for a lot of people depending on their circumstances. If you didn't grow up in a riding family, or even worse, had a family member who has been injured or killed in a motorcycle crash, you might receive some backlash about your decision to ride. If you're younger or just a good old-fashioned mama's boy, you might get an earful from your mother about how unsafe it is. Or if you're in a serious relationship or married, your significant other might not like the idea of you reaching speeds up to 186 miles per hour with nothing but a snakeskin loincloth to protect you. Some people don't experience this backlash and are met with interest or support from their family, but other new riders have to spend some time earning the same support. If you find yourself in a family dynamic where your decision to ride a motorcycle is not immediately supported, or if it in fact causes conflict, you'll have to spend some time easing them into it. This can be done ensuring you'll be wearing proper gear, taking a rider safety course, or stressing the benefits of motorcycling on your mental health. And once you finally earn the approval of the skeptics in your life, make sure to maintain that trust by avoiding squiddly behavior, or just keep the videos of you doing fifth gear burnouts hidden from them on social media, but you didn't hear that from me. Before riding a motorcycle, you should probably get your motorcycle license. You think this would go without saying, but more people than you'd think actually ride motorcycles for years without ever getting a proper motorcycle endorsement on their license. Why they do, I'm unsure, because it's really not that hard to get it here in America, and the consequences for riding dirty far outweigh the cost of a couple $100 in a weekend of your time, or however much the MSF course costs these days. So yeah, the easiest and most recommended way to get your motorcycle endorsement is by taking a course put on by the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, or the MSF. This will include some in-class time as well as practical time on the range of the course, learning how to ride the slowest motorcycles you could possibly imagine. A bunch of cute little Rebel 250s and little Groms and stuff. You'll be doing cone weaves and friction zone play and all the basic skills you need to at least get a motorcycle rolling beneath you. By the end of the course, upon successful completion of the final practical and written test, it will waive any DMV testing and allow you to get your endorsement. Some people will instead go the old-fashioned way and take a written test at the DMV to get a learner's permit, which allows them to ride a motorcycle alongside an experienced rider who is endorsed. Then with a certain amount of time, if you're able to complete the DMV skills test, you can get your endorsement. But this is more complicated because 1, you need to have a bike already, and 2, you need to have someone close to you or who's willing to ride with you and babysit you. They'll either have to teach you or how to ride or just watch you figure it out on your own. And if you aren't able to pass the practical test within a certain amount of time, your permit will expire. In most states, you're only allowed to get your learner's permit twice before passing the practical test. I have firsthand seen people who rode dirt bikes as kids and think they can just waltz into the DMV with their CBR 1000RR or similar bike and completely tank the skills test and then just end up taking the MSF course anyway. So just take the MSF course in the first place. Not only is it easier, but it'll help you develop good habits early on and not risk the development of early onset squidding that comes from a buddy teaching you how to ride. And it's a lot of fun too. Also a great way to see if riding is actually for you in a very small, low-stakes environment. After you've got your government-issued stamp of approval, it is about time to buy your first motorcycle. Whether you're buying your bike new or used, it's important to do some research. You want to find a motorcycle that fits your style of riding, your budget, and makes power appropriate for a beginner. You got to figure out what that means for you. A leader biker, Turbo Hayabusa, or a 600 is probably not wise. And while there are lots of debates over the ideal beginner motorcycle, at the end of the day, you'll find a bike that just tugs on your heartstrings. So definitely do your research and shop around, but don't overthink it too much or get into your head about it. Depending on your age and experience level, a good beginner bike can range from a 300 class bike that makes about 25 horse, all the way up to something making closer to 70 horsepower. But usually, the sweet spot for a beginner bike that won't be too overwhelming, but also not bore you after a few months of riding, will fall around the 50-ish horsepower threshold. But there are other factors to consider as well, such as the weight, seat height, and riding ergonomics. Each one of these factors will affect how it feels to chew 5 gum. Wow, talk about powerful marketing. That just tore a hole right through the conscious perception and just slipped right out. What I meant to say is each one of these factors will affect how it feels to ride a motorcycle as much as the power figures do. It's a good idea to go to some dealerships, sit on some bikes and see how you feel, try to get some test rides, but at the end of the day, when you find your ideal first bike, you'll know it in your heart when it's right. That's why there are so many Kawasaki Vulcan riders, despite the fact that its creation was one of God's most significant blunders. During this time of finding your first bike and developing your riding skills after completion of the MSF course, it is beneficial to have a more experienced friend help you out. And while it is not recommended to let your experienced friend teach you how to ride outright in lieu of a riding course, having a friend there can offer a second opinion of a more experienced rider. For instance, if you're shopping for your first bike, it's good to have a buddy there to, 1, prevent you from being abducted by a Craigslist killer, or at least bear witness to your demise and be able to offer testimony to the investigating officers, and 2, they can offer a second set of eyes or an opinion of someone who's more familiar with bikes. For instance, if you're a brand new rider, you might not know that the clutch isn't supposed to slip after 5k RPM on a used R3 under power. You might be so naive that you think it's some sort of safety feature, but an experienced rider friend will help make sure that you don't get swindled. A friend will also be there to help you encourage and stay motivated to ride and learn. Motorcycling has always coincided with friendship and community, so finding a companion to share the ride with is without a doubt a task that must be accomplished before you ride so you don't have to go through this life alone. Or if you don't know anyone who rides, convince a buddy to take the MSF course with you, and then you two can get into motorcycling together. I've heard lots of stories about father, son, daughter, mother, all kinds of people coming together and deciding to ride motorcycles at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. So you've got your gear, you've got your bike, you've got your platonic riding partner, you're getting close to being ready to ride. One of the last remaining things to do is familiarize yourself with your bike. Sit on it. Familiarize yourself with the different controls, get used to the foot position, the angle and the feel of the levers. This is similar to doing your T-clocks from the MSF course. Good to go over all the critical components of your motorcycle to make sure everything's safe and good to go, but also just so you know how everything works. Test your turn signals and brake lights, switch your high beams on and off, make sure your tires are inflated in good condition. If you bought a new bike from the dealership using the Harley-Davidson dollars they gifted you after completing the Screaming Eagle Clown College, you likely don't have much to worry about besides tweaking the position of your mirrors. But if you got a used bike, it's always a good idea to give the bike a thorough once-over before trusting your life with it. For used bikes, I always do some basic maintenance like cleaning the chain, swapping the fluids, and making sure everything's torqued to spec before putting any real miles on it. So make sure you're familiar with your bike and it's up to par on the riding condition before you had it on the road. And the last thing you have to do before riding is just conquer your fears. Unless you were dropped on your head one too many times as an infant, pretty much any new rider is going to have some butterflies before they go on their first real ride. I actually still very distinctly remember my first real road ride. I had just bought my R3 from the dealership. All I'd done with the MSF course, and they just let me wheel it out of the front after I bought it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm about to ride a motorcycle on the street for the first time. It was really, really exciting, and I had lots of butterflies in my stomach. While it's not advisable to just straight up turn your brain off and ignore any and all fear, it's important to stay calm and focused and trust yourself. If you expend too much mental energy on fear and self-doubt, you'll have less brain power to allocate towards focusing on riding. You may be surprised at just how quickly you'll become comfortable on the bike, so don't be too fearful and instead enjoy the feeling of childlike bewilderment as you experience many riding milestones. Because unfortunately for some, the benchmark for excitement becomes higher and higher, and before you know it, you'll need to hit 186 miles per hour just to feel anything at all. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Is there anything I missed? Remember, everyone's foray into motorcycling will be unique to them, but by watching this video, you're already going to have a leg up compared to those going in completely blind. Be sure to subscribe if you want even more beginner rider content or older rider content or motorcycle content of any kind. We've got tons of new videos coming out every week. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks again to Voom Insurance on the support for today's video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Fact: Oscar the cat gained global recognition for accurately predicting the deaths of over 50 patients at a nursing home by curling up next to them shortly before they passed away, sparking scientific investigations into the intuitive abilities of the animals. I personally think that cat was just a death bringer. That's just my take on it. Goodbye.
Keep watching.